The cantina called the Void's End sat in the lower levels of Nexus Station like a forgotten memory. Smoke drifted through the dim air. Strange music played from hidden speakers. Aliens from dozens of worlds sat at metal tables, drinking liquids that would kill most humans in seconds. Behind the bar, Kang Dae-ho wiped down glasses with steady hands. He was a small man by human standards. His black hair showed gray at the edges. His face had lines that spoke of too many years and too little sleep. But his brown eyes were sharp. They saw everything. "Another Regaline firewater, please," said the blue-skinned trader at the bar. Her voice hissed through sharp teeth. Of course, Dae-ho replied in perfect Regaline. He poured the green liquid into a metal cup. The drink steamed and bubbled. "Careful, this batch is stronger than usual." The trader looked surprised. Most humans could not speak her language. She nodded with respect and left good credits on the bar. Dae-ho had worked at the Void's End for 3 years. In that time, he had learned to speak 17 alien languages. He knew which drinks could kill humans and which were safe. He knew the names of regular customers and their favorite orders. He knew when to listen and when to look away. Most importantly, he knew how to be invisible. The cantina door opened with a loud hiss. A young human woman walked in. She had short black hair and quick eyes. Her clothes were old, but clean. A blaster hung at her hip. "Yoon Ha-jin," Dae-ho said with a small smile. "Your usual table is free." Ha-jin grinned. "You always remember, old man. Terran whiskey. Straight up. Coming right up." Ha-jin was a smuggler. She ran small cargo jobs between stations. Nothing too dangerous. Nothing too illegal. She was one of the few people who treated Dae-ho like a friend instead of just a bartender. As Dae-ho poured her drink, the cantina door opened again. This time, 6 large figures walked in. They wore black armor with red symbols. Their skin was green and covered in scales. Yellow eyes looked around the room like hungry snakes. The music stopped. Conversations died. Every creature in the cantina suddenly found their drinks very interesting. Hegemony guards. The leader was taller than the others. Scars covered his face and arms. A metal plate replaced part of his skull. His name was Captain Vexstar, and he controlled this part of Nexus Station with an iron fist. Well, Vexter said in his deep voice. "Look at all these happy creatures. Having fun, are we?" No one answered. No one looked up. Vexstar's yellow eyes found Dae-ho behind the bar. "You human. Drinks for my men. The strong stuff." "Of course, Captain," Dae-ho said. His voice was calm and polite. "What would you prefer?" "Surprises." Dae-ho moved with quiet efficiency. He pulled bottles from the top shelf. Expensive bottles. Dangerous bottles. He mixed drinks that would burn the throat of most species. But hegemony guards were tough. They could handle strong liquor. As he worked, Dae-ho listened to the guards talk. "The human scientists are getting bold," one guard said. 3 more caught this week. "Should have killed them all during the integration wars," another replied. "Humans breed like insects." Vexstar laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Patience, Krell. Dead slaves make no credits. But these scientists, they think too much. Always planning. Always scheming." Dae-ho's hands never stopped moving. But something cold flickered in his eyes for just a moment. He served the drinks on a metal tray. The guards grabbed them without thanks. They drank deeply and made loud noises of approval. "Not bad for human mixing," Vexstar said. "You know your place, little man? Try to serve everyone well, Captain." In the corner, Ha-jin watched the exchange. She knew Dae-ho well enough to see the tiny changes. The way his shoulders tensed, the way his breathing slowed. But his face showed nothing. The guards spread out through the cantina. They looked at other customers' belongings. They asked rude questions. They laughed at private conversations. One guard, the one called Krell, walked over to where an old human man sat alone. The man was reading something on a small screen. "What's this?" Krell grabbed the screen, reading. "Human history. Missing your dead world, old fool?" "Please," the old man said quietly. "It's just stories. Nothing important." Krell threw the screen against the wall. It shattered into pieces. "No more human stories. You live in our galaxy now. learn our history. The old man's eyes filled with tears, but he said nothing. From behind the bar, Deho watched. His hands gripped a towel a little too tight. "Hey, bartender," Vexstar called out. "More drinks. None of that weak human poison. Real alcohol for real soldiers." Deho nodded and began mixing another round. As he worked, a young human man entered the cantina through the back door. This was Lee Taman, Deho's assistant. He was barely 20 years old, with an honest face and trusting eyes. "Sorry I'm late, Uncle Deho," Taman said in Korean. He always called Deho Uncle as a sign of respect. The supply ship was delayed. "No problem," Deho replied in the same language. "Stay in the back tonight. Polish the glasses." Taman looked at the hegemony guards and understood. Disappeared into the storage room. The evening went on. The guards drank more. It became louder and meaner. Other customers left quickly and quietly. Soon, only Hadjin remained at her table, nursing her whiskey. Captain Vexstar was telling a story about the war. The humans fought well, I'll give them that, but they were weak. They cared too much about civilians. About honor, about rules. He laughed. We had no such limits. His guards laughed with him. "I remember one human officer," Vexstar continued, "called himself the Ghost or some foolish name. Killed dozens of our soldiers. But in the end, we got him too. Probably died screaming like the rest." Behind the bar, Deho's hand paused for just a moment while cleaning a glass. Then he continued his work. "All humans are cowards when you strip away their fancy words," Krell added. "Look at this one." He pointed at Deho. "Perfect example. Quiet, obedient, knows his place. This is what humans should be." Indeed, Vexstar agreed, the good human is the quiet human. As the night grew late, the guards finally decided to leave. They had drunk. Enough to make them happy, but not enough to make them stupid. They were professionals, after all. "Same time tomorrow," human Vexstar told Deho. "Make sure you have the good bottles ready." "Of course, Captain." Yeah. The guards left, their heavy boots echoing in the corridor outside. The cantina was quiet now. Only Heijin remained, finishing her drink. "They're getting worse," she said softly. Deho continued cleaning, but he nodded slightly. "Someone should do something about them." "Someone will," Deho replied. His voice was still calm, still polite, but something in his tone made Hajin look at him more carefully. For just a moment, she saw something different in his eyes, something cold, something dangerous. Then it was gone, and he was just the quiet bartender again. "Another drink?" he asked. "No thanks, Uncle. I should go." She left credits on the bar and walked toward the door. As she reached it, she turned back. "Deho." "Yes, be careful," he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm always careful." After she left, Deho continued his work. He cleaned every glass twice, organized every bottle perfectly, wiped down every surface until it shone. But as he worked, he thought about the guards' words, about human cowards, about knowing your place. Most of all, he thought about Captain Vexstar's story, about a human officer called the Ghost. The ghost who was supposed to be dead. Deho finished his cleaning and turned off the lights. Tomorrow would be another day in the Void's End. Another day of serving drinks and staying invisible, but deep. Inside, something that had been sleeping for 3 years was starting to wake up. Something very, very dangerous. 3 days passed after the guard's visit. The Void's End slowly returned to normal. Alien traders came back. Music played again. Conversations resumed in dozens of languages, but Deho noticed things others missed. The way customers looked over their shoulders, the way they spoke more quietly. Fear had a smell, and it filled the cantina like invisible smoke. Deho opened the cantina early, as always. He liked the quiet morning hours. Time to think, time to prepare, time to remember things he tried to forget, as he arranged bottles on the shelf. His hands moved with perfect precision. Each bottle had its exact place. Each glass sat at the correct angle. Everything in order. Everything controlled. Tae-Min arrived at noon, carrying supplies from the market. "Uncle Deho," he said, setting down heavy bags. "The vendors are nervous. They say more humans have disappeared." Deho continued, polishing glasses. "People always disappear in places like this. That's why it's called the Void." But these were scientists. Important people. Important to who? Taemin paused. He was young, but not stupid. To the resistance. Daeho's hand stopped moving for just a moment, then he continued polishing. There is no resistance, Taemin. There are only people trying to survive. But as he spoke, Daeho's mind drifted to other times, other places. Flash of memory. A dark room, maps on walls, faces around a table. A woman's voice. The plan is simple, Colonel. We hit their supply depot at dawn. Daeho blinked. The memory faded. He was just a bartender again. That afternoon, Hajin arrived earlier than usual. She looked worried. Did you hear about Dr. Kim Sora? She asked quietly. Daeho's hands paused while mixing a drink. Who, human scientist? They arrested her yesterday. Word is she won't last long in hegemony custody. The glass in Daeho's hand trembled slightly. Then his grip steadied. I don't know any Dr. Kim, he said, but he did know her. Dr. Kim Sora had been one of Earth's best geneticists. During the war, she had worked on projects that could have changed everything. Projects that might have saved Earth. Another memory, a woman in a white coat, tears in her eyes. The virus won't work, Daeho. We need more time. Right time is what we don't have, sister. Sister. Daeho served the drink with steady hands. But inside, something cold was spreading through his chest. As evening approached, more customers filled the cantina. Daeho served drinks and listened to conversations. He heard 17 different languages and understood them all. Information flowed around him like water, a Ridgeline. Trader mentioned increased security at the detention center, A. Centauri merchant whispered about human prisoners being moved to another station, A. Vegan pilot talked about hegemony ships leaving. For the outer rim, Daeho filed away every detail. Near midnight. When the cantina was almost empty, Heijin approached the bar again. Daeho, can I ask you something? He nodded while cleaning glasses. How do you know so many languages? I listen, I learn, but some of these languages, they're military codes. Battle speech. How does a bartender learn those? Daeho's hands never stopped moving. Books, old files, the station has a library. Heijin studied his face. You're lying. Everyone lies, Heijin. It's how we survive. She leaned closer. Are you really? Long moment, they looked at each other. Daeho saw intelligence in her eyes. Curiosity, but also loyalty. She had been coming to his cantina for 2 years. She had never caused trouble, never asked too many questions until now. I'm a bartender, he said finally. Bartenders don't move like you do. How do I move like a soldier? It's like someone who's killed before. The glass in Daeho's hand cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but enough. He set it aside carefully. You should go home, Heijin. It's late. She didn't move. I've been watching you for months. It's the way you check exits when you enter a room. It's the way you position yourself to see all the doors. The way you hold knives. When you're cutting fruit, Daeho said nothing. Today, when I mentioned Dr. Kim Sora, your breathing changed. Your pupils dilated. You know her, don't you? I know many people. She's your sister. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Daeho looked at Heijin for a long time. Then he reached under the bar and pulled out a bottle of human whiskey. The real kind. From Earth he poured 2 glasses. Drink, he said. They drank in. Silence. How did you know? Daeho asked finally. Old military records. I'm good with computers. Dr. Kim Sora had a brother, Kung Daeho, a colonel in Earth's Special Forces. They called him the Ghost of Terra Nova. Daeho's face showed no emotion. But his eyes, his eyes were different now. Older, colder. That man is dead, he said. Is he? He died when Earth surrendered. When his friends died, when his sister... Dae's voice trailed off. When his sister was captured, Daeho poured another drink. His hand was perfectly steady. What do you want, Hajin? It's to help. Help with what? Whatever you're planning. Not planning anything. I serve drinks. I clean glasses. I try not to think about the past. Hajin finished her whiskey. The past has a way of finding us anyway. She was right, and they both knew it. The next morning brought bad news. Timon ran into the cantina with fear in his eyes. Uncle Daho, Dr. Kim Sora is dead. Shh. Daho stopped wiping the bar. They say she died during questioning. Heart failure. The towel in Daho's hands tore in half. Uncle, I'm fine. But his voice was different. Flatter. Dangerous. That afternoon, Captain Vexstar returned to the cantina. Joked as they entered. They were in good spirits. Bartender, Vexstar called out. Drinks for everyone. We're celebrating. What's the occasion? Daho asked politely. Another human terrorist eliminated. Dr. Kim Sora. She thought she was clever, working on her little projects. But we showed her the price of defiance. Vexstar's guards laughed louder. She cried at the end, Krell added. Begged us to stop, called for her brother. Said he would come for us? More laughter. Her dead brother was going to save her. Daho served their drinks without expression, but his movements were different now. More precise, more controlled, like a machine built for one purpose. Humans are weak, Vexter continued. They break so easily. Their bones, their spirits, their hearts. Tade, Daho said quietly. That night, after the cantina closed, Daho sat alone in the dark. He held an old photograph in his hands, two young people smiling at the camera, a brother and sister, before the war, before the pain, before everything went wrong. He thought about Sora's last moments, about her calling for him, about dying, alone and afraid. The photograph crumpled in his fist. Outside, Nexus Station hummed with activity. Ships came and went. Aliens conducted business. Life continued as if nothing had changed, but something had changed. The ghost was waking up, and ghosts, Daho remembered, were very good at making people disappear. 2 weeks had passed since Dr. Kim Sora's death. The cantina felt different now. Customers spoke in whispers. Even the alien traders seemed nervous. Daho worked as quietly as ever. But those who knew him well could see the changes. His movements were sharper. His eyes tracked every person who entered. His smile never reached his eyes anymore. Taman noticed first. Ko, are you feeling sick? You look ... different? I'm fine, Daho replied. But his voice was flat, empty of warmth. That morning, bad news arrived with the supply ship. The captain, an old Centauri smuggler, brought word from the outer colonies. Earth's resistance is finished, he whispered to Daho while delivering bottles. The hegemony hit their last base 3 days ago. No survivors. Daho's hand tightened on a bottleneck. All of them, every last human fighter, they say Park Min-ho led the final stand. Brave man, died with a rifle in his hands. The bottle shattered in Daho's grip. Blood dripped from his fingers onto the floor. Park Min-ho, his oldest friend, his brother in arms. The man who had saved his life a dozen times during the war, Uncle Taman, rushed over with a cloth. You're bleeding. Daho looked at his hand as if surprised to see it. Clean this up, he said quietly. I'll be in the back. In the storage room, Daho sat on a crate and stared at the wall. Memories flooded back like a broken dam. Park Min-ho, laughing at their academy graduation. We'll change the galaxy, Daho. You and me. Min-ho pulling him from a burning transport. Stay with me, brother. We're going home. Their last meeting 3 years ago. Go into hiding, Daho. Someone needs to survive. Someone needs to remember. Now. Min-ho was gone. Sora was gone. Everyone was gone, except him. When Daho returned to the bar, his face was calm again. But something fundamental had changed. The last thread connecting him to the peaceful bartender had snapped. That evening, Captain Vexstar arrived with his guards. They were in a celebratory mood. Bartender Vexstar roared. Your finest liquor? We're toasting the end of human resistance? Daho served them without comment. As he poured, he listened to their boasts. Park Min-ho thought he was clever, Krell said, drunk and loud, hiding in that asteroid base. But we found him. Dumbed the whole place down. He fought well, another guard admitted. That killed 6 of our soldiers before we got him. Still died. Like a dog, Vexstar laughed. They all do in the end. Humans talk about honor and courage, but they scream just like everyone else when the pain starts. Deho set down a glass with perfect precision. More drinks, Captain? Always. Tonight we celebrate the death of hope. As the guards drank, Deho began to plan. Not the desperate schemes of an amateur, but the careful calculations of a professional killer. He studied their routines. Vexstar always sat with his back to the wall. Krell liked to intimidate other customers. The youngest guard, Zakmer, drank too much and talked too loud. Weaknesses. All of them had weaknesses. Late that night, after the guards left, Heijin approached the bar. I heard about the resistance, she said softly. Deho continued cleaning, but his movements were mechanical now. It's like a machine going through motions. And I heard about Park Minho. Deho's hand paused for just a moment. He was your friend, wasn't he? No answer. Deho, I know you're planning something. Let me help. Go home, Heijin. I'm not leaving. Not tonight. She sat at the bar and waited. For an hour, they said nothing. Deho cleaned the same glass over and over. Hajin just watched. Finally, Deho spoke. Do you know what I did during the war? You were a soldier. I was an assassin. The words came out flat and cold. They gave me names, and I made those people disappear. Quietly, cleanly, without evidence. Didn't flinch. How many? 847 confirmed kills. Probably more. And now? Deho set down the glass and looked at her directly. For the first time, she saw him without the mask. No pretend kindness. No fake smiles. Just a killer looking back at her. Now I'm going to do what I do best. It's the next day. Strange things began. Happening to the hegemony guards, Guard Zakmar found his weapon had been tampered with. The power cell was drained. He couldn't explain how. Another guard, Veltar, discovered his food rations tasted wrong. He threw them away, suspicious of poison. Later he learned they were perfectly safe, but the fear remained. Security cameras malfunctioned at random times. Always when guards were alone. Always in empty corridors. Krell's personal locker was broken. In 2, nothing was stolen, but his belongings were rearranged. Someone had been there. Someone who could open any lock. Captain Vexstar increased security. But the incidents continued. Meanwhile, Deho served drinks with his usual quiet efficiency. He seemed unchanged, polite, invisible. But late at night, when the cantina was closed, he worked on other projects. He studied the station's blueprints, memorizing every corridor and maintenance shaft. He identified the chemical supplies available in the cleaning storage. Dozens of substances that could become weapons in the right hands. He mapped the guards' daily routines down to the minute. Most importantly, he chose his first target. Guard Peakvar was the weakest link. Young, inexperienced, and prone to wandering. Off alone, he had joined Vexstar's crew only a month ago. Still had nightmares about the war. 3 nights later, Peakvar was found dead in his quarters. The cause appeared to be a heart attack, natural causes. Very sad for someone so young. The station's medical examiner, corrupt Regelian who asked no questions, signed the death certificate without a full examination. But Hajin knew better. She had seen Deho preparing something in the cantina's kitchen, a clear liquid that looked like water but smelled slightly sweet. Cardiac stimulant. Untraceable after a few hours. A killer's favorite tool. One down, she whispered to Deho when he served her drink the next evening. He said nothing. For just a moment she saw satisfaction in his eyes. Captain Vexstar was furious about Peakvar's death. But he had no proof of murder, the young guard had been known to use combat stimulants. Maybe his heart just gave out. Still, Vexstar increased security again. Guards now traveled in pairs. They checked their food and drink carefully. They looked over their shoulders constantly. But fear was a weapon too, and Deho knew how to use it. The second death came a week later. Guard Heriok choked on his dinner. A terrible accident. The food got stuck in his throat. By the time help arrived, he was already dead. Of course, no one mentioned that Heriok had been eating alone. or that someone might have crushed certain herbs into his meal. Herbs that cause throat muscles to spasm uncontrollably. 2 guards dead. Both from natural causes. It's both impossible to prove as murder. But Vextar wasn't stupid. He knew someone was hunting his men. The next night he came to the cantina with only his most trusted guards. Krell and Zakmar flanked him as he approached the bar. Bartender, Vextar said quietly, "We need to talk." Deho looked up from the glass he was polishing. "Of course, Captain. What can I do for you? My men are dying. I'm sorry to hear that. Natural causes, I heard." "Natural." Vextar's yellow eyes studied Deho's face. "Do you believe in coincidences, human?" "I believe the galaxy is a dangerous place, indeed, especially for those who make enemies." They stared at each other across the bar, predator recognizing predator. "Have my usual drink," Vextar said finally. Deho poured the hegemony captain's favorite poison, a blue liquid that could dissolve metal. Vextar drank it like water. "Excellent as always," the captain said. "You know, I've been thinking about our previous conversations about the war, about certain human officers who disappeared." Deho continued polishing glasses. "Tell me, bartender, do you believe in ghosts?" "No, Captain. Dead is dead." Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I wonder. Sometimes the dead refuse to stay buried. Sometimes they come back to haunt their enemies." "That sounds like superstition." "Perhaps. But if I were a ghost seeking revenge, I would be very careful. Ghosts can be banished permanently if you know the right methods." The threat was clear. Vextar suspected, but he needed proof. After the guards left, Hagen approached the bar. "Knows," she said. "He suspects. What's the difference?" Deho looked at her with those cold, empty eyes. "Suspicion makes you careful. Knowledge makes you dead." The war was no longer secret. Both sides knew the other existed. Now it was just a matter of who would strike first. Captain Vextar declared martial law on Nexus Station the next morning. Armed guards patrolled every corridor. All humans were confined to their quarters except for essential workers. The cantina could stay open, but under strict watch. 2 guards now stood by the door of the Void's End at all times. Their weapons were always ready. Their eyes never left Deho, but Deho seemed unbothered. He served drinks with the same quiet efficiency. He cleaned glasses with the same steady hands. He spoke only when spoken to. To anyone watching, he looked like a man defeated by circumstances. They were wrong. Tay Doshman was terrified. "Uncle, maybe we should close the cantina, leave the station. This is too dangerous. Where would we go?" Deho asked calmly. "The hegemony controls everything. There's nowhere to run. But if they suspect you, they suspect everyone. That's what fear does. It makes you see enemies everywhere." Deho was right. The remaining guards jumped at shadows. They checked their food 3 times before eating, tested their drinks for poison. They slept with weapons in their hands. But fear also made them sloppy. Guard Zakmar started drinking more heavily. The stress was getting to him. He would stumble back to his quarters late at night, barely able to walk straight. Guard Krell became violent and unpredictable. He beat a Centauri trader for looking at him wrong. He threw a Regelian customer out of the cantina for speaking too loudly. Captain Vextar trusted no one. He changed his routine daily. He ate only food prepared by his personal cook. He never went anywhere alone. But everyone had to sleep sometime. The 3rd death came 2 weeks into martial law. Dard Velkadon was found in the station's recycling center. He had fallen into one of the crushing machines. A terrible accident, of course. No one asked why he was in the recycling center at 3 in the morning. Or why the security camera in that area had malfunctioned. Or why there were no witnesses. Heijan knew the truth. She had seen Deho studying the station's waste management system. She had watched him map the maintenance tunnels that connected to the recycling center. "How did you get him there?" she whispered during one of their late-night conversations. "People follow patterns," Deho replied. Velkadon always took the same route to his quarters. He always stopped at the vending machine on level 7. He always used the bathroom near the recycling center, and I left him a note. Said I had information about his dead friends. Told him to meet me there if he wanted revenge. He believed it. Angry people believe what they want to believe. Heijin shuddered. The coldness in Deho's voice was getting worse. Each death made him more like a machine and less like a human. But she stayed with him. Someone had to witness what he was becoming. Someone had to remember Captain Vextar was down to 4 guards now. He brought them all to the cantina the next night. "I know you're here," he announced loudly. "Whoever you are, whatever you are, show yourself." The cantina fell silent. Every customer looked at their drinks. No one wanted to be noticed. "3 of my men are dead," Vextar continued. 3 good soldiers, and I know it wasn't natural causes. He walked between the tables, studying faces, looking for guilt, looking for fear, looking for anything that might give away the killer. His eyes stopped on Deho. "You bartender, come here." Deho approached slowly, a cleaning cloth in his hands. "Tell me," Vextar said quietly. "Have you noticed anything strange lately? Anyone asking questions about my guards?" "No, Captain. Only serve drinks. Only serve drinks." Vextar grabbed Deho by the throat. "Do you think I'm stupid, human?" Deho didn't struggle, didn't fight back. He just looked at Vextar with those empty eyes. "Captain," he said calmly, "you're hurting me." Vextar released him. He had no proof, just suspicion and fear. "If I find out you're involved in this," he hissed, "I'll make you beg for death." "I understand, Captain." That night, after the cantina closed, Hagen found Deho in the storage room. He was sharpening a kitchen knife with mechanical precision. "You're going to kill him, aren't you? Eventually." "When?" "When I'm ready. When he's weak enough. When his guard is down." The knife gleamed in the dim light, sharp enough to cut through bone. "Deho, you're scaring me." He looked up at her. For a moment she saw something human in his eyes. Pain, regret, sorrow for what he had become. Then it was gone. "You should be scared," he said. "I scare myself sometimes." The 4th death was the most brazen yet. Guard Zakmer was found dead in his own bed. No wounds, no signs of struggle. He simply stopped breathing sometime during the night. But his room smelled faintly of almonds, and there were tiny puncture marks on his neck, barely visible. Poison dart. Delivered through the ventilation system, the killer had crawled through the air ducts like a ghost. Captain Vextar went insane with rage. He tore apart Zakmer's room looking for clues, interrogated every human on the station. He tortured 3 people who had no connection to the deaths. Nothing. The killer remained invisible that night. Vextar came to the cantina with his last 2 guards. Krell and Jektar, both veterans, both deadly, both terrified. "I know it's you, Vextar," said to Deho. "It's how I know it's you." Deho continued, polishing glasses. "I don't know what you mean, Captain. 4 of my men are dead." "4, and you're the only constant. You're always here, always watching, always listening. I'm a bartender. Listening is part of my job." Vextar slammed his fist on the bar. "Enough games. I know what you are." The cantina went dead silent. Even the music stopped. "Tell me!" Vextar roared. "Tell me who you really are." Deho set down the glass he was polishing. He looked directly at the captain. "I'm exactly who I appear to be," he said quietly. "A tired old man who serves drinks and tries not to cause trouble." "A liar," Captain Krell interrupted nervously. "Maybe we should go. This place, it feels wrong." Vextar looked around the cantina. Every alien customer was staring at him. Dozens of eyes, dozens of witnesses. He couldn't torture the bartender here. Too public, too risky. "This isn't over," he told Deho. "No, Captain, I don't think it is." After they left, the cantina slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. Music played, but the tension remained. HAE-Jin approached the bar. "He's losing control," she observed. "Good. Desperate enemies make mistakes. What's your next move?" Deho smiled for the first time in weeks. But it wasn't a human smile. It was the expression of a predator that had cornered its prey, going to give him what he wants, which is a ghost story. That night, strange things began happening all over the station. Lights flickered in empty corridors. Doors opened and closed by themselves. Security cameras showed movement in places where no one should be. Guard Jektar reported seeing a figure in the shadows. When he investigated, he found nothing but written. On the wall in what looked like blood were two words. Remember Tara? Krell's personal weapon disappeared from his locked quarters. It was found hours later in the cantina, placed carefully on the bar. No one saw who brought it. Captain Vextar's own room was broken into. Nothing was stolen, but a single photograph was left on his pillow. An old picture from the war. Human soldiers standing over alien bodies. The message was clear. The ghost of humanity's past had come for revenge by morning. Vextar looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red and wild. His hands shook when he tried to drink his morning stimulant. He was breaking, and Deho was just getting started. The hunt was almost over. Soon, very soon, it would be time for the final confrontation. The ghost was ready to reveal himself, and when he did, Captain Vextar would learn why Earth's enemies had feared the name Colonel Kung Deho. The quiet bartender was about to remind the galaxy why humans were the most dangerous species ever to reach for the stars. For the first time in months, he had no guards with him. Krell was dead, found in his quarters with his own weapon. Jektar had disappeared completely, leaving only bloodstains in the corridor. The mighty captain of the hegemony looked like a broken man. His scales were dull. His eyes darted constantly to the shadows. His clawed hands shook when he thought no one was looking. The cantina was nearly empty. Most customers had learned to avoid the place. Too many strange things happened. Here, too many people disappeared. Only a few regulars remained. Hajin sat at her usual table, nursing a drink. Taemin worked quietly in the corner, trying to stay invisible. A handful of alien traders kept to themselves. Bartender Vextar called out. His voice was hoarse from lack of sleep. Deho looked up from the glass he was cleaning.
Captain.
Your usual? No. Something stronger. Something that will help me forget. Deho reached for a bottle on the top shelf. Hegemony battle liquor. The kind their warriors drank before suicide missions. Strong enough to dissolve metal. Bitter enough to match the captain's mood. Rough day? Deho asked politely. Vextar laughed, but there was no humor in it. Rough month. Rough year. Rough life. He drank deeply. The liquor burned going down, but he didn't flinch. Tell me something, bartender. Do you believe in justice? I believe in balance, Deho replied. What goes around, comes around. Balance. Vextar poured another drink. I've done terrible things in my life. Killed innocent people. Burned worlds, destroyed families. Deho continued cleaning glasses, but he was listening carefully. And now someone is hunting me, killing my men one by one, making me pay for my crimes. Sounds like balance to me. Vextar looked at him sharply.
Nothing.
And the bartender's tone had changed. It was colder now, more direct. You know who it is, don't you? Do I stop playing games? My men are dead. All of them. You're the only one who could have done it. The cantina fell silent. The few remaining customers looked up nervously. Deho set down his cleaning cloth. He looked directly at Vextar. You want to know who killed your men? Yes. You want to know who's been hunting you like an animal? Tell me. Deho reached under the bar. For a moment, Vextar tensed, expecting a weapon. Instead, Deho pulled out a bottle of human whiskey. The good kind, the expensive kind. Let me tell you a story, Captain. He poured 2 glasses. The whiskey was golden brown, like liquid sunlight. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Sora. She was brilliant, kind. She wanted to save the galaxy with science instead of violence. Vextar's eyes widened. He recognized the name. She had a brother who loved her very much. He was a soldier, but he fought to protect people like her. People who believed in a better future. Deho pushed 1 glass toward Vextar. During the war, the brother made many enemies. They called him the Ghost because he could kill without being seen. He was very good at his job. You're him, Vextar whispered. You're the Ghost. When Earth surrendered, the Ghost disappeared. He went into hiding. He became someone else. Quiet bartender who just wanted to be left alone. Deho picked up his glass but didn't drink. For 3 years, he served drinks and tried to forget the past. It was peaceful, harmless, just another broken human trying to survive. But then his sister was captured, tortured, murdered. Vextar's hand moved toward his weapon. But Deho continued speaking in that same calm voice. And then his best friend died fighting hopeless battles. Park Min-ho. A good man who deserved better. The ghost realized something important. Peace is a luxury. Justice is a necessity. Deho finally took a sip of his whiskey. It tasted like earth, like home, like everything he had lost. So he stopped being a bartender, started being what he was born to be, a killer. Vexter's weapon was halfway out of its holster when Deho moved. It happened so fast that the other customers barely saw it. One moment, Vexter was reaching for his gun. The next, he was on the floor, gasping for air. Dae-Ho hadn't even left his position behind the bar. It simply thrown something, a small dart, no bigger than a needle. It struck Vextar in the neck. Paralytic toxin, Deho explained. Conversationally, you can still see and hear, but you can't move. Very useful for interrogations. He walked around the bar and knelt beside the fallen captain. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen. Vextar could only stare as Deho's face changed completely. The mild expression was gone. The polite smile was gone. What remained was something cold and terrible. You killed my sister? You laughed about it? You enjoyed her pain? Deho pulled out a small knife from his boot. The blade gleamed like silver death. But I'm not going to kill you quickly. That would be too merciful. He pressed the knife against Vextar's throat, just hard enough to draw blood. First, you're going to tell me everything. Every base, every operation, every plan the hegemony has for the remaining humans. Then you're going to send a message to your superiors. You're going to tell them that Earth's children are not as broken as they believed. The knife moved lower, tracing lines on Vextar's armor. And finally, when you've served your purpose, you're going to die. Slowly, painfully, just like my sister did. Vextar tried to speak, but only managed a weak gurgle. Oh, you want to say something? Deho smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Let me help with that. He injected something else into Vextar's neck. A stimulant that would restore his voice, but not his movement. Please, Vextar gasped. I was just following orders. So was I. The difference is, my orders came from conscience. Yours came from cruelty. Deho stood up and looked around the cantina. The few remaining customers were staring in shock. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced politely, the cantina is now closed. Please finish your drinks and leave. They didn't. Need to be asked twice? Within minutes, the cantina was empty except for Deho, Vexter, and Hajin. You should go too, Deho told her. No, I'm staying. This isn't going to be pretty. I know, but someone needs to witness this. Someone needs to remember. Deho nodded. He understood. For the next hour, Captain Vextar told them everything. Troop movements, supply routes, the locations of human prisoners, the plans for final extermination camps. Deho recorded it all on a small device. Thank you for your cooperation, he said when Vexter finished talking. Now for the final part. Wait, Vexter pleaded. I can help you. I can turn against the hegemony. We can work together. No, we can't. Deho's knife found its mark with surgical precision. Vextar died quietly, his eyes still wide with shock. It was over. Deho cleaned his knife carefully and put it away. Then he returned to the bar and poured himself another whiskey. What now? Jean asked. Now, we broadcast Vextar's information to every human settlement in the galaxy. We show them that resistance is possible. And then Deho smiled. For the first time in months, it was a genuinely human expression. Then we remind the galaxy why they used to fear us. 3 months later, the Void's End had become something different. It was still a cantina, but now it served a dual purpose. Refugees came seeking shelter. Resistance fighters came seeking information. Smugglers came seeking contracts to move people and supplies. Deho still tended bar, but now everyone knew who he really was. The ghost of Terra Nova, Earth's most dangerous son. The man who had single-handedly restarted humanity's resistance. Taemin had grown up quickly. He now helped coordinate supply runs instead of just cleaning glasses. The naive young man was gone, replaced by someone harder, but wiser. Heijin had become Daeho's lieutenant. She ran intelligence operations throughout the sector. Her smuggling skills proved invaluable for moving people and weapons. New faces appeared. Regularly, Dr. Choi Vajin, a human medic who treated wounded fighters. Engineer Park Soo-min, who built weapons from scrap metal. Teacher Han Biora, who kept human culture alive among the refugee children. They were building something. It's not just a resistance, but a community. A family of survivors who refused to give up. The hegemony sent more ships to hunt for the ghost. They found empty space and confused traders. Daeho had learned to be invisible again, but this time he wasn't hiding alone. Late one night, as Daeho cleaned glasses in the quiet cantina, a young human woman approached the bar. She was dirty and tired, with the look of someone who had traveled far. "Are you him?" she asked quietly. "Are you the ghost?" "I'm a bartender," Daeho replied. "What can I get you?" She smiled through her exhaustion. "Hope? Can you serve that?" Poured her a glass of water and slid it across the bar. "Hope is free," he said, "but freedom costs extra." "What's the price?" "Everything you've got, everything you are, everything you're willing to become." The young woman drank the water and set down the empty glass. "Then I'll take it." Outside the cantina, ships moved through space carrying messages of rebellion. On 100 worlds, humans lifted their heads and remembered what they used to be, what they could be again. The quiet bartender had kept his promise to the dead. He had reminded the galaxy that humanity's children were still here, still fighting, still dangerous. And in the darkness between stars, the ghost of Earth's resistance was growing stronger every day. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. But this time, the aliens would learn what humans had always known. The most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. The ghost was no longer hiding. He was hunting.